Hey guys, welcome to AITA Chronicles. Subscribe if you love chaotic Reddit drama. First story coming up.
Am I the asshole for telling my dad's affair partner wife that I don't care about her and her kids' needs and well-being? 2 years ago, my mom found out dad was cheating on her, and he moved in with his affair partner and her kids. Both dad and the affair partner, Martha, were married. Martha has 2 young kids with her ex-husband, supposedly, and dad has me, 16F, and my brothers, 20, 22, and 25. My brothers refused to have anything more to do with dad after the affair. But because I was 14, I didn't get the choice. My parents' divorce took over a year, and my dad and Martha have been married for a little under a year already. Martha's ex-husband doesn't want anything to do with their kids, so they're with Martha and dad all the time. I do what I can to be outside the house when it's dad's parenting time. He notices and complains, but I told him I'm not playing happy family with his affair partner wife. Dad tells me not to call Martha that, and Martha has yelled at me in the past few months for using that term, because she's afraid her kids will hear. I told them I don't care, and I don't have respect for them. I tell Dad all the time he let me down, and he destroyed our family and hurt us all. He says it shouldn't hurt me and my brothers, and that he doesn't care if he hurts Mom because she's so boring that nobody should be stuck with her. I always tell him I can't wait for Martha to cheat on him. My dad has to pay a certain percentage of all activities I'm a part of. Martha feels like it's unfair because I do so many, and it takes money from their household. So she told me I need to do 1 or 2 things and not all the things, because her kids have needs, and so does she, and their well-being needs to be maintained. I told her I don't care about their needs or well-being because they're not my problem. She said, "You're supposed to care about how your family is doing." And I told her the affair partner wife of my cheating father will never be my real family, and she could be homeless on the street for all I care. Dad told me I have no right to talk that way to anyone, and Martha has tried to be nice to me, but I won't even be civil with him. I told him if he wants a civil household, he should let go of his parenting time. I told him I'm done at 18 regardless, but he's the one punishing Martha's kids and Martha by forcing me to be here. He told me it doesn't give me the right to say I don't care about the well-being of a mom with 2 young kids. Am I the asshole? You know, I can't lie. This one really hit me. I don't think the writer is the asshole at all. She's a teenager stuck in a situation she didn't ask for, and she's reacting to betrayal, instability, and the emotional wreckage her dad left behind. Her words are sharp, yeah, but they come from pain, not cruelty. Her dad chose to blow up their family, and now he wants her to play nice with the woman he cheated with while pretending none of it ever happened. That's not how trust or healing works. And Martha, look, she might be trying, but stepping into a family you helped break apart means you've got to earn respect, not demand it. The writer's not heartless, she's just exhausted from having her feelings dismissed. So no, she's not the one out of line here. And with that said, let's move on, because the next story, it's got its own brand of family drama, and trust me, it's a wild one. Wife says I need to get over it, but I can't stop obsessing over a prank that ruined my wedding experience and left me furious. I had an amazing wedding experience that was completely ruined by a prank my wife and friends played during the garter removal. AITA for refusing to let it go. During the reception, we were doing all of the usual wedding games. Eventually, I was told it was time to do the garter removal. As everyone gathered around us in the middle of the dance floor, my wife was sitting in a chair, and my friends brought out a blindfold and told me I would be doing the garter removal blindfolded. I should have been suspicious at their grins, but I'd had some drinks, wasn't suspecting anything, put it on, and tried to be a good sport about it, as everyone seemed like they were having a great time, myself included. As soon as I was blindfolded, however, my wife slipped out of the chair and was replaced by one of my groomsmen. He's a friend of the family I've grown up with, but I would not say we're close. Now, I literally cannot stand him, although he's not a bad guy other than my anger at this prank. Sitting in the chair in place of my wife, my groomsman was in shorts with the garter around his thigh. My wife stood behind him and was talking to me as they walked me over to keep me fooled into thinking it was her. On their instructions, I got down on my knees and began reaching for what I thought were my wife's legs. Once I found the leg, I found the garter and began pulling it down. But at that moment, I heard my wife saying, with your mouth, with your mouth. So I leaned forward and grasped the garter belt in my mouth to the shrieks and applause of the crowd. With the garter in my teeth, I pulled it down his leg, and then my wife actually came around to help me get it over his shoe because it got stuck. Once I had the garter, they told me to stand up and take off my blindfold. When I did, I was smiling because I thought I'd been a good sport and everyone was laughing so hard, it seemed like everyone was having a great time, myself included. But when I took off the blindfold, everyone burst into even louder laughter. For a moment, the entire energy of everyone at the wedding was focused on nothing besides laughing at me being the sole butt of the joke. It felt awful. I was furious. I wanted to say and do a million different things, but I didn't. For some reason, I just felt that pretending it wasn't a big deal was the best defense, that showing anger would be confirming how badly I'd just been humiliated for their delight, and that would have made my humiliation all the worse. So I sucked it up, walked through the rest of the wedding while doing my best to keep a smile on my face. My wife could tell I was stunned, but she kept going too. She definitely had no idea how badly I was taking it. Everyone was standing around us, and we couldn't talk openly about how I felt, at least not without ruining everything. And I didn't know whether I wanted to go there after all the effort and money put into the wedding. And I kept sucking it up the next day at the brunch and for most of the next week through most of our honeymoon. At some point, I told myself that my wife didn't mean to hurt me, and there was no reason to ruin her wedding memories by telling her that my experience had been ruined. But then, at the end of our honeymoon, I had had a few drinks, and I just couldn't help it. And once I started talking to her about it, I just went off. I told her it was trashy, that it hurt, if not destroyed, my trust and sense of intimacy towards her. I was harsh and got carried away. After at first apologizing a bit, she got upset and left me sitting out there. I think I just kept going because I felt hurt and wanted to maybe make her feel bad as well, to be honest. Since then, it's been a difficult subject. I've told her I don't want to hear about the wedding. I don't want to write thank you notes, look at pictures. If it was tomorrow, I wouldn't make plans to celebrate our anniversary. My wife and I have a lot of strengths in our relationship, but I just can't stop thinking about this and the feeling when I took off that blindfold. I literally cannot stop my mind from replaying it over and over, and I get mad every time. And perhaps the worst part is that it's all recorded. We had a professional photographer shooting a video, and in the video, I see at least 4 other people recording it on their phones. Watching the video, I find myself looking at the laughing faces of family and friends in the video, and there's a part of me that I'd never act on, that wants nothing more than to punch them all in their faces. The fact that I know these videos are out there makes it feel like it's constantly happening to me. My wife says that she's sorry, that she thought I would take it better and laugh it off, and that I need to move on. I think maybe I am the AITA. No good is coming from obsessing over this, but I literally cannot let it go. I find myself coming up with reasons to be angry. I tell myself sometimes it was assault because I was tricked into putting my mouth on another man's leg without my consent, but I think that's just rationalizing my anger. I don't know. Edit. Wow, thank you for all the responses.
I'm digesting, and I have to say I'm genuinely feeling better just sharing this, even if some of you don't think I'm in the right. I'm definitely not as angry as I was when I wrote this, so there's that. Although it does come and go. In response to some of the questions, one, yes, I created this account to share this. I'm not AI or a bot. I genuinely don't know what karma farming is, but anyone who wants my karma can have it. Two, it was the wedding planner who originally proposed the idea. She had done it at other weddings apparently, and she coached my wife and friends on how to do it. To drape her dress over his lap and to stand behind him talking to me. He was wearing his same groomsman's shirt and coat, but had changed into shorts, a stocking, and flip-flops. 3. My groomsman is now my brother-in-law because he's married to my wife's older sister. What I meant to say is that he's a good guy. We grew up together and I like him, but I didn't consider him a best friend at the time. And now I'm no longer even thinking of him as a friend, in large part because I'm mad at him. I don't think there was a reason they picked him other than he's thin like my wife. 4. I believe my wife when she says she thought it would be funny and that I wouldn't mind. I just don't think she thought of it from my perspective when it came to concluding this was a funny thing to do. Sometimes I tell myself this is what I'm mad about. It keeps changing, really. 5. A lot of people have asked me what I expect my wife to do about it now besides apologize. I don't have a good answer to that and need to think about what that means. 6. My favorite comment thus far is the guy who told me to wash the sand out of my vagina. Ha, fair play. Man, this one honestly left me feeling a little sick. I don't think the writer is the asshole at all. What happened wasn't just a harmless prank, it was a setup that publicly humiliated him on what should have been one of the most meaningful days of his life. And yeah, maybe his wife didn't mean to hurt him, but intent doesn't erase impact. The worst part is how isolated he clearly felt during and after it, like he had to swallow the hurt just to protect the vibe for everyone else. That kind of emotional suppression lingers, and honestly, if I were in his shoes, I'd be haunted by it too. Anyway, that one was rough. Let's see if the next story is any less painful.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband's childhood best friend she's too involved with my kid? A bit over a year and a half ago, me and my husband gave birth to our son. It was our first kid, and we were incredibly nervous and scared we were going to screw things up. The first week with him back were horrid. He cried all the time, and it was ridiculously exhausting, but I'd be lying if I said we didn't know what we were getting into. At the start, my husband's best friend was amazing. She would come round all the time, bring us food, spend time with our son babysitting so we could some time away, and really appreciated the help. And she seemed to genuinely love my son. When my maternity leave was finished and I went back to work, she offered even more of her time to help with babysitting instead of me hiring someone. I said that I couldn't make her do that, and she surely had other things to do, and she said it was fine. She works from home on her online businesses anyway, and she even refused pay. And honestly, I didn't mind any of the help until now. I recently noticed on our doorbell that she had been coming in at night while I was doing occasional night shifts. I thought it was strange, but, free help, so I never confronted it, as weird as I felt it was. But yesterday, when I came home from a shift and found my son playing with her and found that he kept referring to her as Mama, I think something kind of broke inside of me, and I told her to get out. She protested and asked what's wrong, and I just asked her to leave and to not come here again, and she accused me of being jealous and that I was scared I was being replaced. She pointed out that if I was a more involved parent, my husband and son wouldn't need a second wife. And I screamed at her, told her if she knows what's good for her, she should get out. She finally did. My husband came home a bit after, and I told him about it, and he just shrugged and didn't say anything. But my mother-in-law called and had a go at me, basically repeating her talking points and saying that I needed to apologize. And honestly, I'm at a lost cause at this point. I feel really bad and felt like went too far. Am I the asshole? Edit. My mother-in-law just called my husband to set me straight and to allow my husband's best friend to be allowed in the house to see her grandson, and that I need to get used to the fact that my son sees someone else as a mom.
At this point, she practically is a second wife, especially considering I'm working. And honestly, fuck her, and fuck all of you in the comments who think I'm a shit mother for bloody working. Look, from where I'm standing, this one hits hard. Because it's not just about boundaries, it's about identity. You're not the asshole here. You're a mom who came home after a night shift and heard your own child call another woman mama. That's not some small oversight. It's a gut punch. Sure, the best friend may have started with good intentions, but somewhere along the line, she crossed into territory that wasn't hers to claim. And your husband? The fact that he shrugged it off speaks volumes. You're juggling work, parenting, and emotional landmines while everyone around you just expects you to be grateful. No way. You had every right to draw that line. It doesn't make you jealous. It makes you human and a protective mother. And with that wild mother-in-law response, yeah, no, that's a whole mess of entitlement. Anyway, that's enough of this emotional roller coaster. Let's see what the next story has in store.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband to stop sharing everything about our life with his mother? I, 30 female, have been married to my husband, 33 male, for 4 years. I love him, but one issue keeps causing tension. He tells his mom everything. I mean, everything. If we have a disagreement, she hears about it. If we're planning something, she hears before it's even finalized. If I get a bonus at work, she somehow knows the number. It's not just annoying. It feels like a total invasion of privacy. His mom has even brought up personal things during family gatherings that I never expected anyone else to know. She wants me to joke about a private disagreement we had, and I was humiliated. I have told him multiple times that I want some boundaries, that our marriage should be between us, not him and his mom as a team. He says I'm overreacting and that he just likes to vent to someone. Last night, I found out she knew about a health issue I hadn't even told my own family yet. I confronted him and said I'm done being okay with this. If he can't stop running to her with every detail of our lives, maybe he is not mature enough for marriage. He got super defensive and said I was trying to isolate him from his mom. Now I'm wondering, am I the asshole? You know, the more I sit with this, the more I feel like the writer isn't the one out of line here at all. This isn't about isolating someone from their parent. It's about boundaries, basic respect, and emotional maturity in a marriage. Having a close relationship with your mom is great, but when your spouse becomes the topic of group chats or casual family jokes because you can't keep private matters private, that crosses a serious line. It's not venting when you're airing your partner's personal health info or career updates without consent. That's just straight up disrespectful. The writer set a boundary, clearly and respectfully, and if that's met with defensiveness instead of accountability, then honestly, the issue isn't her tone. It's his priorities. And with that, we're wrapping up this story because the next one, yeah, it's a whole new kind of chaos. Am I the asshole for asking my mom why I should go see her stepkids when she ignored me for them so many times while I lived with her? My parents got divorced when I, 19M, was 4. They split custody of me, and I had a good relationship with both until I was 11. That's when my mom started dating her husband, and when she became one-track-minded when his kids were around. They were years younger than me, and he was their sole parent, so mom used that as an excuse. But it was hurtful, and my mom promised she'd do better, but she didn't. There are a few incidents that come to mind where this was super clear. Mom's stepkids wanted new toys, so mom took them shopping and told me to tag along. I asked her while we were on the way if I could drop by a gaming store, and she didn't answer. I asked her when we got to the mall, and she ignored me again. She didn't talk to me at all while we were at the mall, and when I told her I was going to the gaming store and I'd be back, one of the stepkids started screaming that they wanted me to stay, so mom stopped me going. When we got back to her house, she told me we went for her stepkids, not for me, and I spoiled it by upsetting them. Another time, we went through a drive-thru, and it was busted, so mom left us in the car and went inside for food. She didn't get what I actually asked for, and shrugged it off when I told her she got me the wrong order. When I was grumpy about it that night, she told me she hadn't time to go back and the kids needed to get home, and I was making a big deal out of nothing. I told her she went back because one of her stepkids got the wrong drink, and she told me it was different because he was little. She was supposed to meet me at the climbing gym for us time. She was late, so I called and texted. No answer.
I waited for an hour 40 before I called Dad and asked him to drop me off at Mom's place. She wasn't home, but neither were the kids. 2 hours after I got back, she came home with the kids, and she said nothing while the kids were up. So I yelled at her. Then when she got the kids in bed, she yelled at me for yelling at her, and she took away my phone for not being more understanding and yelling, and for saying fuck her stepkids. Last one for this post because I don't want to keep you here all day, but her and her husband took us out for a family day. She spent that whole day doing stuff with her stepkids and shrugged off my hand when I tried to get her to listen to me because I was asking her to do something with me. I walked back to the car when I realized that was going to be the rest of the day. Nobody came to get me. But that night, she told me her stepkids got upset because they wanted to do some things with me, and I was gone. I told her she ignored me, and she said she had younger kids to pay attention to. I told her all she cared about was them, and she told me I didn't care about them at all. And I asked her, why would I? She said I acted like I needed her attention 24/7, when I was plenty old enough to not get jealous. This kind of stuff happened a lot, and like I said, Mom told me she'd fix it, but she never did. I hated her for it, and I resented her stepkids, and she pretty much helped me decide I would never want to be part of one as an adult. I don't want stepkids, or to give my future kids a stepmom if I find myself in that position. She called a few times and asked me to visit her stepkids, but ended the call when I said no. Then she called me again about a week ago and told me her stepkids missed their big brother and when am I visiting. I said never, and she told me I need to, because I'm their brother and they love me. I asked her why I should see them when she ignored me for them so many times when I lived there. She said it wasn't their fault, and I told her I didn't give a crap about her stepkids. She called more times, and I didn't answer, and she'd text, and I'd ask her the same question every time. She told me I'm not making her want to spend time with me, and I told her she wasn't making me want to spend time with her stepkids. I get my responses might be petty, and it's not the kids' fault, but I don't want a relationship with them. Am I the asshole? Honestly, I don't blame the writer for feeling the way he does. This isn't some petty grudge over one bad moment. This is years of being pushed aside, dismissed, and emotionally benched by someone who was supposed to make space for him, not treat him like the afterthought. Yeah, maybe the stepkids didn't do anything wrong, but when a parent creates an environment where you're constantly second place, that resentment builds. And now that he's grown and has distance, he's choosing to protect his peace, not re-enter a dynamic that already hurt him. I think that's fair. Anyway, that one hit a little bit deeper than expected. Let's move on to the next story and see where that one takes us.
Am I the asshole for moving out of my uncle's house when he announced another foster placement? I've been living with my uncle and his wife since I was 8. I'm 19F now. My parents died in a car accident and my uncle took me in. When I was 14, they started fostering kids because they said they wanted to help children like they helped me. In the 5 years since then, they've had 8 different foster kids come through, usually 2 to 3 at a time. My uncle and his wife mean well, but they have no clue how to handle troubled kids. The foster children have serious behavioral issues. They steal food and hoard it in their rooms until it rots. They smear things on the walls, destroy furniture when they're upset, and have violent outbursts. One kid punched holes in every door upstairs. Another one threw a chair through the living room window during a tantrum. The worst part is that my uncle and his wife always make me the unofficial caretaker. When they brought in 2 little ones last year, they moved them into my room instead of setting up the spare room properly, and I had to help with night terrors, bedwetting, and basically parenting duties. They're constantly asking me to watch the kids when they go out or deal with crisis situations because you're so good with them. Last month, when my uncle announced they were approved for 2 more placements, siblings with significant trauma backgrounds, I'd had enough. I called my best friend, whose family has always treated me like their own daughter, and begged them to let me move in. They were shocked when I explained everything and immediately said yes. I packed my important documents and belongings and left that same day. My uncle and his wife are furious because they're losing their free help and because I didn't discuss it with them first.
My friend's parents had to deal with angry calls, and now my uncle is threatening to report them for interfering with a family situation. Am I the asshole? From where I'm sitting, the writer isn't the asshole at all. She's just someone who finally hit her breaking point after years of being treated more like a live-in babysitter than a teenager who lost her parents. What her uncle and his wife did may have come from a place of wanting to help, but good intentions don't excuse dumping emotional labor on someone who never signed up for it. And expecting her to quietly keep absorbing more and more trauma, that's not family. That's exploitation. She protected her peace, and honestly, she did what a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do. Anyway, that one had layers. Let's jump into the next story and see what else Reddit has in store.
Am I the asshole for saying it's not my problem if my ex and her husband can't afford their kids? I, 30 male, was married to Marin, 30 female, and we have a son together who's now 8. When Marin was pregnant, I found out she was cheating on me with James, 33 male. James had a girlfriend who was pregnant at the same time. When my son was born, we needed a DNA test to find out if I was his father or James was. As Marin's husband, I was the legal father, and that made it easier when the DNA results showed he was actually mine, because she fought to name James his father. Things were toxic. James was there for everything in the later pregnancy and the birth, and Marin told me nothing. Her parents were the ones who gave me info on when my son was born, so I could file with the courts for a DNA test and custody. And our son's birth was also when our divorce could proceed. James's ex ended up giving him custody of her daughter, and so they had her full-time and my son 50% of the time. And a year and a half later, they had a daughter together. At this point, they have James's daughter and 4 children together. And I won custody of my son 3.5 years ago because in order to force more money out of me, they wouldn't feed him enough and let him wear dirty old clothes. And I only paid child support because I earned more than Marin. But we had equal parenting time back then. So now Marin sees our son every other weekend. My son's in therapy to help him with all the mess he's witnessed and been a part of in some way in his young life. Marin was also ordered to pay a small amount of child support, but she only paid a few times. She always uses the excuse that she can't afford it, and that might be true. I never push it because I can take care of my son without her. For the last 2-ish years, Marin has looked to me to buy extra school supplies and share them among the 2 school-aged kids, so her stepdaughter and first daughter with James. I have always ignored those requests and sent my son with supplies and donated a few to his class as requested. I have never bought a single thing for the other children in my ex's household. 2 weeks ago, my son had a small surgery, and Marin showed up. Marin brought up the school supplies issue and asked me to please be decent about this and get some supplies for her girls because they couldn't afford them. She told me they struggle to support the kids they have as it is, and their other kids suffer. I tried to move away from her, but she followed me to another table. So I told her I don't care if they can't afford their other kids. I told her that her other children are not my responsibility, and she needs to figure something else out. I told her she already denied our kid food to try and get money out of me, and she lost most of her time with him as a result. And my priority was my kid, not the kids she keeps having. I told her I would not discuss it with her again, and I haven't, but she has sent many messages through the co-parenting app the courts have ordered us to use where she calls me an asshole and not a good dad to our kid. My lawyer knows. He tells me to keep ignoring her. And for those who might wonder, this will not remove her visitation with him. It was difficult enough to get primary custody after her denying our son enough food to try and make me pay more. Unless my son is older and doesn't want to see her, or CPS removes the other kids, nothing will change revisitation. Knowing all of this, am I the asshole? You know what? I don't think the writer is the asshole here. Not even close. If anything, he's been shockingly restrained considering how much he's been through. The fact that Marin weaponized their child's well-being to squeeze more money out of him already crosses a massive line. And now she expects him to cover for the kids she had with the guy she cheated on him with? That's not being decent, that's being used.
Prioritizing your child doesn't make you heartless, it makes you a responsible parent. And honestly, if you can't afford more kids, maybe stop having more kids. Anyway, this one was a storm. Let's see what kind of chaos the next story brings.
Am I the asshole for leaving one of my brother's kids out of a trip but taking the rest? So, long story short, I, 35F, live and work abroad but am from the Midwest. I grew up with my brother Jason, 43M, and our parents, 70s. We were working class, had what we needed, but not well off by any means. When I was in high school, Jason married Tiffany, 40F, who is and was and will always be a mess of a person. Heavy drinker, partier, God knows whatever else. But she was hot, and my brother is a dweeb, to put it nicely. They had Jace, 19M, Jeff, 17M, and Hannah, 12F. Their marriage broke down before Hannah was born. They tried working it out, but ultimately got divorced. Jason started dating Jenny, 43F, while splitting custody of the kids with Tiffy, 50-50. Since Tiff had been a stay-at-home mom, she received child support and alimony, and my brother worked a lot. I liked Jenny at first. She wasn't a complete smoke show like Tiff, but she was kind, had a good job, and was well educated. I thought, much better match. At first, I know Jenny was upset that the kids didn't immediately love her and call her mom when they were there, and the divorce was hard on them. Got pregnant somewhat fast with Daisy, 10F, and they got married. Around this time, the older kids started refusing to go back to Tiff's. She was always drinking and having guys around, so all three moved in full-time with Jason and Jenny, and Tiff left town and is no longer in the kids' lives. I tried being understanding. I'm sure having a newborn and then three older kids full-time is difficult, but Jenny completely changed. She stopped working, but declared she was only a stay-at-home mom to her kid. Jason was working 70-plus hours to make ends meet, and her parents were helping them out, but she controls the finances. This means that the three of them, Jason, Jenny, and Daisy, operate as a family unit, going to dinners, events, even vacations, and leaving the older three kids at home. I have always thought this was disgusting and voiced my opinion about it, but Jason just said his divorce broke him emotionally and he will do anything possible to keep Jenny happy so that their marriage works out. Gross, yes. And 10 years ago, to be frank, I was younger, broker, and dumber, so it was kind of more like, yes, my brother fucking sucks as a dad, but I live on another continent and all I can do is be supportive of the kids. I know, not a great attitude in retrospect, and I'm disappointed in myself. I really did my best. When they refused to pay for Jace to learn how to drive, even though Jenny refused to drive the kids anywhere, my mom taught him and I bought him a used car. We had to shame Jason to put him on his insurance, and he makes Jace pay for it. Same with Jeff. They share the car and use it for their activities, and Hannah's. My wife, an only child, and we don't want children, have the three of them as our sole beneficiaries in our will, something we did when we found out that Jenny and Jason planned to leave them only the bare minimum amount. Everything goes to Daisy. Also, after we got married, my wife, 6 years ago, and I decided that we would start taking the older kids on annual trips with us when we went to the US. Nothing fancy, we might be child-free, but we're not billionaires or anything, just well off. Things like a week in Florida, Utah, California, things like that. They're very outdoorsy kids, so they've had a blast every year, and we plan it when my brother takes Jenny and Daisy on trips, so they don't care. Normally, we vacation in the summer, but Jace got an internship this summer, so we decided to move our trip to the fall and are going to Maine. Leaves. I let Jason know the dates. They're in line with their fall breaks, no worries, but he basically said we need to start including Daisy. Jenny's parents made some bad investments. They're fine, but aren't helping them out anymore, and Jenny's looking for a job, but since Jenny's parents had always paid for their trips, they can't go on one this year. So, even if all was fair, I wouldn't want to take Daisy on a trip. This is going to shock you with parents like that, and I feel so bad saying this about a child, but Daisy is a huge brat, spoiled, mean, and constantly bragging about the things she gets that her siblings don't. She once told me they weren't her siblings. They were Tiffany's kids. She throws toddler-level tantrums on holidays if she doesn't get as much and more than the other kids. Tells my wife and I we are going to hell. Edit. I now feel bad for including this. She said it about 5 years ago a few times, and when Jenny was told, it was about the only time I've ever seen her discipline Daisy. I guess she'd heard it from Jenny's aunt, but it was hurtful and hard to forget with everything else. Anyways, since Jenny waits on her hand and foot, she's a total slob. I feel bad saying all this. I hope when she grows up, she grows out of it. But there is no way I'd want to take her on a vacation. So I told him I didn't think we'd be able to handle all 4 kids, and we'd just go the 5 of us. He said Jenny could come to help out. Absolutely not. Or our mom could go. Love her, but she's getting a freaking hip replacement next month and does not want to go. Plus, the car we'd need for all these people on a road trip would be stupid. We'd probably need 2, and you know what? I don't want to. Anyways, sorry for trauma dumping on all of you. This is getting long. I was worried Jason would not let me take the other kids on the trip, but they decided to go the route of shaming us online. Obviously, it's working with their friends and her family, but even my dad told me to stick to my guns. But my wife came to me the other day and basically said, are we even better than Jenny if we're favoring some kids over another just because we don't like their mom? Before we were evening things out, but now we're obviously favoring the oldest. She told me to think of the long-term health of my family and our relationships. She said it's my family, my decision, but wants me to think about it. My gut is saying just take the older 3, but Daisy's only 10. She's not to blame. Would it make me an evil aunt to leave her out? Reading this, I don't think the writer is the asshole at all. She's not excluding Daisy out of spite. She's setting a boundary after years of stepping up for kids her brother and his wife continuously failed at. Daisy might be 10, but she's also been taught to see her siblings as less than, and that dynamic didn't come from nowhere. It's not the writer's job to fix that, especially at the cost of the trip being miserable for everyone else. And let's be real, this isn't about fairness, it's about guilt-tripping someone who's finally offering something they never would. Family isn't just about blood, it's about showing up when it matters, and she's been doing that better than the actual parents. Anyways, that one got messy, but there's more where that came from, so let's get into the next story. Am I the asshole for backing my sister-in-law and kicking my wife's friend out of house for touching my niece? My wife and I have been married for 3 years, and my wife and I and my sister-in-law, we all live together. She has 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. Me and my wife help her, mostly my wife because she's at home most of the time. But her friend has been a pain for us. I don't like her. She lives near us and has been friends with me wife for a year. She comes over almost every other day and spends hours. She's senseless and rude and talks loudly. We have to remind her almost every time that she has to wash her hands before touching children. And the worst part, she sometimes shows up drunk. She came over 2 days ago and touched my 5-month-old niece without washing her hands, and top of that, she was drunk. My sister-in-law got angry and asked her to get out of our house. She said that she's sorry and went to wash her hands, but my sister-in-law grabbed her hand and asked her to leave, and I had enough of her as well, so I joined in as well and asked her to leave. She was very angry, but didn't say anything and left. But at night, when I was using my wife's phone, I saw that she texted my wife, and she said that we were rude and we shouldn't have insulted her. And she's trying to warn her, my wife, that there's something going on between me and my sister-in-law. When I saw her text, I asked my wife if she still wants to be friends with this one after what she texted. My wife said she doesn't know what I'm talking about. I showed her, and after reading, my wife said that she never expected her friend to say something like this, and she's breaking her friendship with her. I said it's necessary because if she didn't cut her off, I would have divorced her. My wife got angry at me for bringing up divorce when it's her friend's fault and not my wife's. Am I asshole? Forgive me for my English and a long post. Honestly, I don't think the writer did anything wrong here. That friend crossed so many lines, showing up drunk, ignoring basic hygiene around a baby, and then making a disgusting accusation out of spite. No, that's not someone you keep around. The writer was just protecting his home and backing up a sister-in-law who was clearly at her breaking point. Now, mentioning divorce, yeah, that was a harsh move, and probably why his wife snapped, not because she wanted to keep the friend, but because the threat felt too extreme in that moment. Still, the real villain here is the so-called friend. That's the kind of toxicity you cut off without a second thought. Anyway, that was a wild one. But hold on, because the next story is just as messy. Am I the asshole for refusing to be the default babysitter just because I'm the only one in the family without kids? I'm 27 female, and I'm the youngest in my family. I have 2 older sisters, both in their 30s, who each have 2 kids. Every family get-together lately has turned into,
can you just watch the kids for a bit while we catch up? And a bit somehow becomes the entire afternoon. I love my nieces and nephews, but I don't go to family events to be a free babysitter while everyone else relaxes with a glass of wine and talks about Bridgerton. I just want to eat some food and gossip with the adults too. Last weekend, I came to a barbecue, and the second I walked in, I got handed a diaper bag and told, "You're on kid duty." I literally hadn't even taken off my shoes yet. So this time, I said, "Nope, not today," and just sat down with my plate of food like everyone else. Cue the drama. One sister said I was being selfish and don't understand what it's like being a mom. The other tried to guilt trip me with, "You have no responsibilities, you should help." Like, what? Because I'm single and child-free, I owe them free childcare? Now the group chat is cold, and my mom says I could have helped a little to keep the peace. But I feel like if I keep saying yes, they'll never stop treating me like the built-in babysitter. I wasn't rude. I just said no. Am I the asshole for drawing a line? You know what? I get it. Just because someone doesn't have kids doesn't mean they're automatically the family nanny. The writer isn't heartless. She clearly loves her nieces and nephews, but there's a difference between being the fun aunt and being handed a diaper bag before you even take off your shoes. That's not helping out. That's being used. It's wild how fast people forget that child-free doesn't mean responsibility-free. And honestly, saying no once in a while doesn't make you selfish. It means you have boundaries. So no, the writer is not the asshole here. That said, the family drama doesn't stop, and the next story, yeah, it takes the tension up a notch.
Am I the asshole for thinking my farrier died after he ghosted me, only to find out he blocked me and then his wife called me desperate? I, 28F, have worked with the same farrier, Josh, 25M, for over 2 years. For context, farriers are specialists who trim and shoe horses' hooves every 4 to 6 weeks. It's an important and regular part of horse care, and you build trust with the person doing it. Quick context, I have 2 senior pasture horses that live on my parents' property. I don't ride consistently anymore. I work full-time and have 3 kids, 2 of them toddlers, but I tend them weekly. They get vet visits 2 times a year for shots, hoof care every 4 to 6 weeks, and regular attention by my parents when I can't. They're both shod in the front and barefoot in the back due to some lingering white line issues from wet conditions, and this is common in most horses in our region. For the full time of our professional relationship, it was always friendly and professional. You get to know your farrier fairly well since they are such a regular part of care. IYKYK. So we'd chat during appointments about life, family, politics, you name it. He knew my horses well, recommended treatments for the white line I purchased and did throughout our time, and I was always timely with payment, flexible with scheduling, and respectful of his time as he was with me. No drama, no tension, ever. A few weeks ago, I messaged him about something my vet recommended after my mare was diagnosed with arthritis, getting a game plan to adjust the trim slightly for arthritis, and asking if he could come pull the shoes so I could soak the horse's hooves for bacteria. Normal. No response. 5 days later, one of my horses lost a shoe. Still nothing. I texted again, called, waited a week, then 2. I genuinely started to worry. The messages hadn't even been marked as read, so I wondered if something serious had happened. I looked him up in the news. Nothing. I sent 4 more texts over the span of a month just asking if he was okay. Still nothing. I finally booked a different farrier to help. When I mentioned what had happened, he agreed it was weird, but figured maybe Josh was on vacation or dealing with something personal. We were all still trying to give the benefit of the doubt. Then I remembered Facebook. I rarely use it, but I checked. And there he was, posting just a day earlier, celebrating his certification as a journeyman farrier. I felt relieved. I commented congratulations publicly and messaged him privately saying I'd been worried and maybe needed a new number. The next day, his profile was gone. I had clearly been blocked. So I went to Instagram, sent a similar message there, hoping it was just a tech issue. Blocked again within an hour. Now officially freaked out and confused, I asked my husband to check.
Josh's profile was still visible on his account, so I messaged from there asking if something was wrong, or if I'd done something to offend him, still trying to be respectful. I even messaged his wife on Facebook with the same concern. I was blocked there too. I hadn't said anything harsh, I didn't accuse or demand, just tried to check in. At that point, I figured I was maybe too small a client, or the vet note rubbed him the wrong way, or something I'll never know. I don't know. I was hurt and honestly stunned, but I decided to let it go. Until a few days ago, his wife unblocked me to message me and send me a rant. She called me desperate, said my husband doesn't owe me anything, accused me of not taking care of my horses. What? And even sent me the literal definition of ghosting, like she was explaining it to a teenager, and commenting that because I was young, I didn't realize how entitled and disturbing my behavior was. What the hell? Now I'm left feeling both stupid for caring so much and angry that someone I worked with closely for 2 years couldn't give me the basic courtesy of a heads up. It's not like I sent 50 unhinged texts. I was worried. I would have completely understood if he wanted to move on, or drop me as a client, or if he had an issue and wanted to bring it up. I've been through my fair share of farriers in the past 12 years. Edit for all who think this is a red flag. I've moved from Chicago to 2 places in Texas and 1 farrier retired. That would be 5, including Josh, and 6 for the one I'm going to have to find and settle on in 12 years. But why block me and then trash me behind a screen? So, Reddit, am I the asshole for thinking something had happened to my farrier after weeks of silence, trying to follow up respectfully, and then getting blocked and insulted? P.S. Farriers run on word of mouth, so it's not like I can leave a review, but I don't know if I should share my experience with others at my local feed store when I'm by. Should I just wash my hands of this? For context, if you're not in the horse world, farriers aren't like plumbers where you can just call another one if someone flakes. It's more like a home nurse or a personal specialist. You build a relationship over months. They get to know your horse's individual hoof needs, the terrain they live on, any medical or movement issues. You don't typically rotate farriers. It's one person you trust, and there aren't tons to pick from in most areas. Honestly, I would have reacted the exact same way. When someone you work with closely for years just goes completely dark with no warning, it's only natural to worry. The writer didn't harass anyone, didn't cross boundaries. They checked in like any reasonable person would, especially when it comes to animals they love and care for. To get blocked without explanation and then insulted, that's not just unprofessional, it's downright mean-spirited. If anything, the writer showed more grace than most would. Anyway, that was a wild one. Let's get into the next story and see where that one takes us.
Am I the asshole for telling off my girlfriend's bratty adult kids when they kept showing up unannounced to use my house for parties? I'm 35. My girlfriend is 44. I have a place on Cape Cod that has a pool. My girlfriend's kids, boy 21, girl 19, will just bring friends over unannounced. They'll come in the house, go through the fridge, play loud music, and use the pool. Since I WHF for myself, I need a quiet atmosphere since I'm on calls most days. I don't have the relationship or dynamic with them that should make them feel comfortable enough to be doing this. I've met both of them maybe half a dozen times over the course of 18 months. I admittedly haven't gone out of my way to be buddy-buddy with them since I don't have much use for young people. This is why I date people older than me who are empty nesters. Last weekend, I just snapped when both brought friends over for a big blowout, and I told them that they can't keep coming over. They gave me some resistance, and then I just cursed them out and told them I never wanted to see them anywhere near me again. For the record, I'm very low-key. To get me angry takes a lot. I've never been in a fight or dispute in my life and have no interest in getting in one. I just feel like I had been brought to a boiling point and just had to let it out. It pisses me off when people have no regard for how they are affecting other people. They are just so oblivious, not aware or not caring what I think, what the neighbors think, etc. They can't be that dumb. I just think they are disrespectful. My girlfriend says I handled the whole situation poorly and that she can't forgive how I treated her kids. I haven't bothered to reach out over the past week. I think I'm done with her. Her kids are brats and have no tact or manners, and I'm just so soured on her and the situation. If her kids were polite, it would be fine. But I hate spoiled, disrespectful brats. Honestly, I don't blame you for snapping. You gave these kids way more grace than most people would, especially considering you barely even know them. They treated your home like a free Airbnb with a pool, didn't respect your work boundaries, and clearly didn't think twice about how disruptive they were being. And the fact that your girlfriend didn't set any boundaries with her own kids, that's a huge red flag. I don't think you're the asshole at all. In fact, it sounds like you reached your breaking point after being ignored and disrespected for way too long. Anyway, that's enough poolside chaos for now. Let's move on to the next story, because trust me, it only gets wilder from here. Am I the asshole for cutting my date off after he brought his daughter on our date? I was talking to this guy for some weeks. He had a nice vibe and we had a lot in common. He was only 3 years older than me, but that was nothing. Now I regret it. I met this guy, we will call him Dave. I met Dave on Tinder. Yes, it's actually embarrassing that I have that app, lol. Anyone's, I made sure to put in my bio that I don't date men with kids, just not for me. Dave and I matched. He's a funny dude, handsome. We talked for 3 weeks, asked if he had kids, and he said no. He planned a date for us, first time seeing each other in person. We did FaceTime a lot, but that was it. I was happy, but nervous at the same time. So he planned the date at Olive Garden. I got dressed in a nice outfit. He was getting there before me because he lived closer to the restaurant. Anyways, jumped to the part where I made it to the destination. When I walked him, I didn't know what to expect. Should have known. When I found Dave at the table, he had a little girl with glasses and an iPad. She was nice, even complimented me. I could tell he was a good dad from the way she was comfortable with him. I kinda knew the date would go south. He gave me a very awkward look. Comes to find out, that was his daughter. Her mother didn't want her, so she dropped her off with Dave. This is the drama I couldn't take. During the date, we barely talked. I was upset because, for one, he lied to me, and he acted like nothing was happening. Anyways, we ate, and that was it. I knew that we would not work out. He texted me saying he hopes I get home safely and hope I had a great time. I told him that we can't talk anymore because he's a liar. I mean, come on, you literally said in your bio that you don't date men with kids, and he still chose to lie, straight to your face, for weeks. That alone is enough to walk away. But bringing his daughter to your first in-person date, that's not just inconsiderate, that's chaotic. I get that things happen. Maybe the mom dropped the ball last minute, but at the very least, he could have warned you or rescheduled. Instead, he sat there like nothing was weird while you're just trying to make sense of it all. No, you're not the asshole for cutting things off. You dodged a bullet, honestly. But all right, enough of Tinder dates gone wrong. Let's move on to the next wild Reddit story. Am I the asshole for telling a 14-year-old boy what a period is? I, 16 female, am on vacation with my cousins, 15 female and 17 female, and my cousins' cousins from the side of the family I'm not related to. They're a big family, but the only ones relevant to this story are 14 male and maybe twin girls 11. I have on and off lived with my aunt and uncle my whole life, so I am very close to my cousins and semi-familiar with their cousins. We sometimes celebrate holidays or events together, but I don't really consider them my family. All that to say, today, me and all the cousins were getting ready to go to the beach, and my younger cousin, I'll call her C, was taking a long time in the bathroom because she was trying to put a tampon in for the first time. I was outside the door because the lock on that bathroom is kind of broken and doesn't always work. And the 14-year-old, A, was there basically just being annoying and trying to make C get ready faster. Eventually, C says something about how he doesn't get to rush her because he doesn't have to deal with a period. And A has no idea what she's talking about. I tell him to go ask his mom, and he runs off, and I assume that's the end of it. Later, when we're at the beach, A comes back to me and says that his mom won't tell him, and I'm like, did she say why? And he's like, she said it's only for girls to know. And I kind of laugh, and my cousins are like, that's kind of ridiculous. And so A asks again, and eventually I read off like the Planned Parenthood definition off my phone.
A is like, does that happen to my mom and sisters? And I'm like, maybe, but don't ask them about it. It's rude. He asks if there's anything he can do to help C, and we're like, not really. And then he runs off to go play in the water or something. Then A's mom blows up at me at dinner, saying I was telling him things he couldn't understand and that me and my cousins were always trying to correct him. While everyone I have talked about this with has said his mom overreacted, people are split about whether or not I was also in the wrong for telling him what I did. I will say A has something developmentally going on. He can be a lot more immature and hyperactive than other people his age, and he was homeschooled for a time, I think, because he couldn't handle regular middle school. But even then, I'm pretty sure I was told the basics of this kind of thing in early elementary school, and I wasn't traumatized or anything, lol. I will accept my verdict though. Am I the asshole? Honestly, I don't think the writer did anything wrong here. In fact, it sounds like she handled a genuinely awkward situation with patience, maturity, and compassion. A 14-year-old boy asking a basic question about periods shouldn't be met with secrecy and shame. It should be met with honesty, especially if his own mom refuses to explain. Sure, he might be a little behind developmentally, but that doesn't mean he's incapable of understanding or deserving of the truth. What the writer gave him wasn't graphic or inappropriate, it was factual, calm, and respectful. The only person who overreacted here was his mom. And frankly, this whole boys can't know about periods attitude is just outdated. If anything, the writer was bridging a knowledge gap that a parent should have taken care of long ago. But that's that, because up next, we've got another story, and trust me, this one takes family drama to a whole new level.
Am I the asshole for making my wife throw out a whole chicken? So, my wife decided she was going to try a new recipe for dinner tonight. It's a one-pot chicken thing with orzo. She ordered the groceries online this morning and then went to collect them around 11 a.m. She got back home around midday and unloaded everything from the car. Flash forward to 5:30 p.m., and wife returns from an afternoon walk with her friends. After 5 minutes of dinner preparing sounds, I hear a loud, "What the f***? Where has the chicken gone?" from the kitchen. I naturally assume that she forgot to order it, but she assures me there is a chicken somewhere. Eventually, she tracks it down. It has been in the boot of our car all afternoon. Now, the chicken wasn't a frozen chicken. The chicken was a whole, fresh, raw chicken in a sealed bag. Although it wasn't a particularly warm day, we still had a high of 16 degrees C, 60 Fahrenheit, and our car was sitting out in the sunshine all afternoon. I told my wife I was posting this, and she wants me to stress that the chicken was still cool to the touch. Personally, I wouldn't say the chicken was warm, but I also wouldn't call it overly cold. It's safe to say it was somewhere between fridge temperature and room temperature. After finding the chicken, I tell my wife I don't want to eat the chicken. She tells me we're going to eat the chicken. I go back to the couch and start Googling how long you can leave a chicken in the car for. I go back to the kitchen and tell my wife I don't want to eat the chicken. She tells me we're going to eat the chicken. I explain that I've Googled it and we shouldn't eat the chicken. She keeps preparing the chicken. We have a back and forth like this for a while, at which point I pitch the idea that she can have the chicken and I can just make something simple for my dinner. She's not thrilled because she wanted to make this meal for me. At this point, I tell her I'm not going to eat it, and I feel like I'm being made to eat a chicken against my will. She then proceeds to walk out the door, get in the car, and head off in search of another chicken from the store. I feel like a bit of an asshole about it. I also feel like we may have wasted a perfectly good chicken. Honestly, I don't think you're the asshole here at all. Food safety isn't something you want to roll the dice on, especially with raw poultry. Your wife might have been frustrated, especially after planning the meal, but come on, that chicken sat in a warm car for hours. Just because it was cool to the touch doesn't mean it was safe. You weren't rude, you didn't demand anything outrageous, you just didn't want to risk food poisoning over dinner. That's not being difficult, that's being reasonable. And hey, she ended up getting another one, right? So clearly it wasn't the hill she wanted to die on either. Anyway,
That's enough raw chicken drama. Let's see what the next story is serving up.